Yes, firstly, I would like to apologize. I'm actually connecting with you via my cell phone because of load sharing issues. So I'm going to have a problem with sharing photos, but thank you for actually pasting yours there. The project was actually initiated by Tyris Construction early last year in beginning of 2019. Their vision was actually to build an old age home. Basically, those apartments that you're looking at now are for old age people who are actually in the twilight zone. They wanted to accommodate them. It actually comprises apartments. It comprises a clinic, a wellness center, a gym, and a hall. That's basically what those buildings are that you're looking at there. So the brief from the architect was to actually come up with a design which was, first of all, which had a good fire rating. That was number one. And number two, they wanted something which was environmentally friendly, because there are existing buildings there which are occupied. So they didn't want any dust around the area. That was number two. And then number three, they wanted this building to be done as quick as possible. In other words, the turnaround time was supposed to be only 3 weeks to complete the roof from scratch until you put the sheeting. So those were the actual factors which determined the type of roof which they wanted to put. And obviously, the only roof which would work is an ultraspan roof. For obvious reasons, it was going to be quicker to install the roof, or basically to construct the roof. It was going to be quicker. Number two, because the area is already occupied, like I said, they didn't want any dust, chips, anything environmentally unfriendly. So ultraspan, being a very clean product in itself, we were able to deliver to site cut materials which were exactly cut to suit. In other words, on site, there wasn't going to be any wastage left. Once we started constructing the trusses, we were actually given a very, very small area to do our trusses. And amazingly, once we did our trusses, there was not even one screw left on the ground, and they were very impressed about that. And when it came to actually installing the roof, each being a light gauge steel, we actually assembled the trusses on the ground in batches of 10 each. We assembled them on the ground and we lifted them in batches of 10 onto the roof. A process which would have taken us maybe a whole week, we did it actually in 1 day. If you look at all those 2 blocks that you can see on the picture, we actually lifted those trusses in 1 day, which was quite a mean feat to achieve. Having done that, we actually reduced our project time, which we were given, from 3 weeks to basically a week. In a week's time, all the trusses on that project were on the roof, and we immediately started with the cladding and the covering of the roof. So that was a very, very advantageous thing from our point of view, and for the client as well, because we didn't receive any previous complaints from neighbors. The other projects which they'd done in timber came with all sorts of queries, and because there was a lot of wastage on the site, and the neighbors were not happy with all the skip bins on the road. So for this particular one with ultraspan, it was actually clean, quick. Not even one complaint came from the methodology which was used for the roof. So ultraspan was the winner for us on that day.
Thulani, I just thought, just to offset your timber background, I thought I'll have some light steel background to counter that.
I'm guilty as well.
And yes, I don't have any more detailed questions. Speed of construction, with all of those trusses, what is the total square meters that was put up in the period of 1 week?
The total square meterage of those 2 blocks was actually 1,800 squares, so 900 for each block. So it actually was very, very quick. Yeah, very quick.
Yeah. Now, the MyTech and the users of the MyTech system has sort of grown used to assembling trusses in clusters on the ground and lifting the whole
Yes.
cluster. That gives the advantage
Yes.
from a safety point of view. There's no working at
Yes.
height, or very little working
Not
at height. Yeah.
very
No,
minimal. Very minimal. Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Denise.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
John Duncan, any comments or questions? You good? Okay. So, Pete, could you how would you say? I mean, you've touched on the benefits of light steel in this application.
Yeah.
What would you say that went really well? What are you proud of this project?
Well, my pride really comes from the finished product itself. The comments from the client is what we pride most, because once we did our roof when it was up, and when also our sheeting was done, for them to do the internal finishes, it was a breeze, because the light gauge steel itself accommodated their ceiling efficiently, because they had a special ceiling which they wanted to put in there. The light gauge actually came through for us because they wanted us to create a very large volume between the ceiling as a winner. And the other thing which actually was impressive was the fire rating of the trusses, because the client specifically was worried, because it's old people that we're dealing with here. In case of a fire, we don't want the building to suddenly collapse. So the fire rating of the truss itself, which is about, if McDonald can correct me if I'm wrong, around about 2 hours or so, which was more than enough for them. And it actually gave them a peace of mind to say, in case of emergency, if there is a fire, this roof will not fall on our old people. We will actually be able to escort them out whilst the roof is still intact before it collapses. So the fire rating actually did tremendously for us, which is what was impressive for the client and for myself as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that
not
was
to mention
a
yes. Oh, sorry, to mention the aesthetics of the roof. I mean, the roof looks beautiful. Ultraspan, basically, once you put it, the trusses are plumb, straight. There is no waviness on the roof. If you look at it now, a year later, I mean, the roof still looks plumb and straight. There is no bending of members and any webs bending, nothing like that. So that is actually a winner. In also the effect that there's going to be very minimal maintenance. It's unlike a timber roof where you have to go back annually to go and inspect the roof. Of course, we have to do it with ultraspan, but we're actually confident that even if we do our yearly inspections, we will not find any members which have suddenly broken or any joints which have suddenly pulled out. So in that respect, it saves the client a lot of money in terms of maintenance going forward, as compared to maybe a timber roof, which needs a little bit of more attention annually. So that for them and for us was actually a pride, a very proud thing.
Good. John, you had a comment?
Yeah, Denise, are you back on? I see that your mic is off.
Yeah, I'm just switching it off because the phone rang.
Sure. I just want to find out the 2-hour fire rating. That doesn't come from the light steel trusses. That must come from the ceiling that was installed underneath the trusses.
Yes, it does actually. You're right, John. It does. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, John. In fact, Piri, when you made that comment, the trusses themselves, the main thing that we always say to the customers when they say what's the fire rating, is it depends on your ceiling. So Piri, that speaks to the ceiling that was installed there. So yeah, in terms of whether timber trusses or ultraspan or light gauge steel trusses, which one has got a better fire rating, it depends on the ceiling that has been installed there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's true. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, judges? I think I've pretty much covered everything I'd like to cover. Or
I'd just like to say I like the emphasis that was placed on the tidy site. I think, yeah, sure, steel, I think, leads to a much tidier, cleaner, safer working environment. And come across clearly in this project?
Well, in closing, I would like to say the feedback we have gotten from the client, which is a year later up to today, is that the roof has never had any leakages. The ceilings have been set, which means our trusses are still intact, which actually gives us more confidence going forward in terms of using Ultraspan as our main product for roofs. So for us, we are quite happy with that. We are really happy with that.
Great, great. Tulani, did you have any comments or questions that you want to ask?
What profiles did you guys use for the roof sheeting?
Oh yes, we used a Safintra Saflock 700, which is a concealed fix system. We really tried to minimize any visible screws on the roof, so they opted for a Safintra Saflock 700. Yeah, okay. That's what we use. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's a very clean, simple roof.
Yeah.
Looks neat. Looks neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.